Okay, so we hear it all the time, right? Get your 8 hours of sleep. Everyone seems absolutely obsessed with sleep duration. But in this explainer, we're diving into some totally counterintuitive new research that shows when you go to sleep actually matters just as much, if not more, than how much you sleep. Let's look at the hidden danger of variable bedtimes.
So I want you to ask yourself honestly right now, did you go to bed at the exact same time every single night this week? Well, if you're like most of us, the answer is probably a hard no. During the work week, you've got your somewhat set schedule. But then, Friday night rolls around, and you stay up a few extra hours to binge a show. Saturday night, maybe you're out late with friends. It's just a remarkably common habit. We tend to treat the weekend as this free pass to break all our sleep rules. But here's the catch. Our biology doesn't actually know what a weekend is.
And those seemingly harmless weekend sleep habits, they carry a hidden cost. Continually shifting the time your head hits the pillow isn't just making you super groggy when Monday morning hits. It's actually masking a surprising and frankly pretty alarming medical reality that directly impacts your cardiovascular health.
Let's get right into Section 1, the hidden sleep danger.
Let's look at the core of the problem here, because the magnitude of this data is absolutely staggering. For people who sleep less than 8 hours a night, which, let's be real, is a massive portion of the population, having a highly irregular bedtime literally doubles your probability of experiencing a major cardiovascular event. Yes, it doubles it. We are talking about severe, life-altering things here, like a myocardial infarction or a stroke. Literally just by playing fast and loose with the clock at night, the risk shoots up by a full 100%.
Now, you might be thinking, oh, it's just because my whole schedule is shifting, right? I'm going to bed late and waking up late. But actually, the data shows something way more nuanced. The danger lies uniquely and specifically in when you go to bed. Interestingly enough, having an irregular wake time, that doesn't present the same dangerous influence on your cardiac health. It is specifically the act of going to sleep at unpredictable times that acts as the real trigger.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Finnish heart study.
To really appreciate the weight of these findings, you have to look at the massive scale of this research. This wasn't some tiny trial with a dozen college undergrads. The team at the University of Oulu tracked over 3,200 people. They specifically followed a cohort of individuals who were all born in the year 1966, monitoring their health records for more than a decade. And a decade-long study of that size? That gives us incredibly robust, statistically significant data.
Plus, they didn't rely on people's faulty memories, which is a huge flaw in a lot of sleep studies. You know how it goes. If a doctor asks what time you went to bed last Tuesday, you're probably just guessing, right? Instead, when these 3,200 participants turned 46 years old, the scientists had them wear actual physical activity sensors for a full week. These little monitors tracked their precise movements, giving the researchers completely objective, highly accurate data on the exact duration and, crucially, the specific timing of their rest. Absolutely zero guesswork involved.
This whole breakthrough is perfectly captured by Laura Nauha, a postdoctoral researcher on the project. She points out that this study really stands apart because it isolated 3 distinct things: the time you go to bed, the time you wake up, and the midpoint of your sleep period. As she puts it, it is the first time these 3 aspects are examined independently and linked to serious heart problems. And the conclusion, loud and clear, bedtime regularity is the heavy hitter when it comes to heart impact.
So why does this happen? Let's move to Section 3. Circadian rhythms explained.
Why on earth does your heart care what time you turn the lights off? Well, to answer that, we have to look at our internal clock. It's a central control system that fundamentally craves consistency, and it all boils down to desynchronization. See, our bodies operate on a roughly 24-hour cycle guided by a master clock right in our brain. When you go to bed at wildly variable times, you are essentially blasting contradictory signals to this clock. You're telling it that night has fallen at 10 p.m. on Wednesday, but somehow at 2 a.m. on Saturday. The clock gets completely confused, and that leads to this messy state of desynchronization.
And trust me, you do not want to confuse this clock, because this internal pacemaker runs the show for your vital functions. It controls your body temperature. It dictates the release of cortisol, which is your body's main stress hormone. It controls melatonin, your sleep hormone. And absolutely critical for our discussion today, it regulates your blood pressure. This clock syncs up primarily with natural sunlight, sure, but it also heavily relies on your routine habits, like mealtimes and bedtimes, to stay properly calibrated.
Let's actually walk through the biological domino effect here so you can see exactly how a fun, late-night weekend eventually turns into heart strain. Step 1. Your random bedtimes send those mixed signals we just talked about. Step 2. Because the master clock is so confused, your hormone production completely derails. Your body might start pumping out stress-inducing cortisol at totally the wrong time, or it might fail to release melatonin properly. And finally, step 3, all this hormonal chaos and lack of routine eventually deregulates your biological processes, leading straight to increased chronic pressure on your cardiovascular system.
Now, for a long time, medical science actually knew about these specific dangers, but mostly just in the context of shift workers, people working night shifts with constantly rotating schedules. But what this study proves is pretty revelatory. You do not have to be a night shift nurse to suffer these effects. The shift work risks now apply to everyday life, literally just staying up late on regular weekends. Creating what we sometimes call social jet lag is more than enough to create a dangerous, persistent imbalance in your body.
Okay, so let's focus on solutions. Section 4, protecting your heart.
I really don't want to leave you feeling alarmed without giving you the tools to fix it. And honestly, here is the ultimate, incredibly straightforward lifestyle solution that comes out of all this complex Finnish research. Go to bed at the exact same time, even on weekends. That's it. That's the secret. Understanding this link between your internal clock and your heart opens the door to a super easy preventative measure. By keeping your bedtime consistent, you are actively helping to maintain a perfectly tuned internal clock. And that well-tuned clock? It's a hugely powerful tool to regulate your blood pressure and your metabolism, which are two absolute pillars of optimal heart health.
So, I want to wrap up this explainer by turning it right back over to you. What time do you plan to go to sleep tonight? But more importantly, can you actually commit to that exact same time tomorrow night and the night after that? And yes, even this coming Saturday night? Think about it and pick a time right now. I promise you, your heart, your hormones, and your future self will absolutely thank you for that consistency. Thanks so much for joining me as we unpacked this vital research. Take care, and I will see you next time.